Hey, Tommy from the Run Testers. In this video, we are going to be doing a full review of the Saucony Guide 17. Let's have a look. The Saucony Guide 17 costs £135 or $140. It weighs 278 grams or 9.8 ounces for men in a size 8, and the drop is 6mm. The Saucony Guide 17 continues the popular stability line with a number of updates that the brand is calling CenterPath technology. This includes a wider platform, higher sidewalls, and an updated asymmetric profile. This overhaul is designed to hold the foot into a deeper position and nestles it between those two sidewalls, without the need for supportive plastics or posts. The shoe also features an increased level of PWRRUN midsole foam in the forefoot, which produces the new 6mm drop, a soft PWRRUN Plus sock liner, and strategically placed outsole rubber to protect the midsole and improve grip. In addition, there's also a new upper design that makes the shoe slightly roomier than its predecessors.
So the Guide 17 fit me very well in my normal running shoe size. It's a well padded shoe. I don't always love the way Saucony does heel collars and stuff like that. It sometimes can irritate my Achilles a little bit, but I was okay in this shoe for the most part. I didn't get any rubbing. It holds the foot well, a nice amount of width, good amount of room in the toe box. So yeah, I was very happy in my normal running shoe size in the Guide 17. Same size I use across Saucony's range days.
Now, I ran in a UK 8.5, which is my regular Saucony shoe size. I've got wider feet and kind of high insteps, and I've run in the Ride 17 and the Speed 4 in this size recently and found good fit. And for the Guide 17, it was the same deal. I'm really enjoying the fit actually of Saucony shoes right now. I find there's a good balance of security and hold in all the right places, and just about enough room in the toe box to have a bit of flex and a bit of wiggle without cramping. The Guide held well, no slipping. I found it easy to get good lockdown across the midfoot. And overall, I think the fit is bang on, and I would recommend going true to size in these.
So the fit for me in the Guide 17, I'm a size 8 in the UK. It's a very comfortable shoe. There's plenty of room in the forefoot. There's plenty of room in the midfoot. There's plenty of space in front of my big toe. It's just all in all a shoe designed for comfort. And the upper is really nicely designed. It's quite well reinforced, so you can really get a nice lockdown fit in it. And there's a good bit of ankle support as well, and lots of padding around the ankle. Very comfortable shoe. I'd definitely stick to my size in this. I've not had any issues with it at all.
Now, in my testing, I've covered around 40 kilometres in the Guide 17. Most of that has been at the easier end of my marathon training. So I'm talking about kind of slower pace runs, easy recovery runs, that kind of thing. That's largely been on the road, though I did throw in some light off-road stony river paths to give the stability a bit more of a rigorous test. Now, despite the updated combo of softer cushioning here, initially fresh out of the box, I found the big kind of stack, this midsole big block, quite firm and a bit blocky. Other reviewers I've seen said they found it softer than the previous generation, which I didn't run in, and quite soft overall, but my experience was initially different. Perhaps because the shoes I've tested recently before this maybe are a little bit softer overall. But I felt the big platform was markedly stiffer and somewhat more solid underfoot than you'll get from the likes of the Ride 17. Not a surprise because it's a stability shoe. Now, that was the case at least in my early miles. However, that did soften up somewhat the more that I ran in them, though I would still have these down as a mild, firm shoe. When I got into a rhythm quicker with a quicker turnover, I enjoyed the roll from the rockering, and I found the platform compared to some other shoes does make for a reliable, stable ride. On ride, it kind of reminded me a lot of the Hoka Arahi, or maybe something like the Via Olympus 2, the Ultra Via Olympus 2. And I'd say the stability elements here sort of fall towards the more subtle end for guidance shoes. Now, I like my shoes rockered and quite stiff, so this shoe kind of suits my style anyway. But I found it felt really nice and light on the foot as well, with a decent disappearing fit that I think Saucony has nailed in most of its recent shoes. There's a nice, fast, light turnover vibe going on here for a stability shoe. And when you kind of tapping along with good light rhythm, that's when I think the shoes feel at their best, and they feel really good, like they're working with you in a natural way, supportive but not too interruptive. And I really like that. I did actually wonder if this shoe would be one that I might choose for sort of longer ultra runs, like a 100k ultra. But my only concern is that I think deeper into longer time on feet, you'd want a bit more protection underfoot. but it's definitely got that easy long haul, easy turnover thing going for it.
So I did run in the Guide 16 a little bit, but I didn't use it very much. Didn't get around to doing full reviews on it myself, but I have done a lot more in the Guide 17, and I do prefer the feel of the new shoe, the way that Saucony has adjusted its approach to stability with this shoe. There's a lot of similarities on paper. You've got the same midsole foam, the stack's not that different, and the weight's not that different, but I think this shoe feels a lot different on the run, and I prefer the way the Guide 17 feels as someone who would look at using the shoe purely as an easy day cruiser. I don't think it's the most versatile shoe, but what you do have here is a comfortable, supportive shoe for easy runs. So with the lower drop on the new shoe and the way that Saucony has adjusted the stability features to just give you more general support rather than a medial post or a plastic clip or something like that, it feels a very comfortable shoe and a natural shoe to use even as a neutral runner myself. You roll through very smoothly. It's a much more rockered feel to it than the Guide 16 had, I found, and I kind of prefer that for easy shoes like this, because when you've got a fair amount of foam underfoot and it's not the lightest shoe, and the foam in the midsole isn't like the most bouncy or exciting, I think the rocker is appreciated because it takes away some of that weight, creates that nice smooth ride. You can tick over the miles really easily, and it doesn't matter so much that the foam isn't giving you a load back in terms of responsiveness, because the rocker is really predominant feeling on the run. So I've been using the shoe mostly for easy runs during marathon training. Like my highest mileage weeks ever of late, I've been running fairly high mileage and using this a lot for recovery runs, easy runs, and it does really do a good job. It does support the legs well, gives you a lot of protection underfoot. It's not overly bulky or cumbersome though. It isn't a huge stack height, and it doesn't feel very big on the foot, and because of that rocker you can just tick through those slow miles very nicely in the shoe. It's comfortable to wear for longer periods. I've done like several longish runs in the shoe, and it just feels comfortable and good for them. Like, it protects the body well. You move on with your day. It's not a shoe that wows you, but it's exactly kind of what you want on your foot the day after a very hard workout when your legs are tired and you just want a little bit of extra support. I think the versatility is okay. So it's not the heaviest shoe in the world, which is good, and if you're someone who likes a cushion daily trainer, I think it will do a decent job. Like, I've upped the pace on one run in this shoe and it didn't feel great for it, because I'm someone who prefers a lighter shoe for that kind of thing. But if you are looking for a protective daily trainer, maybe you're a newer runner or maybe a slightly heavier runner than me, you might get a bit more out of the shoe for that. I think it is a solid, versatile option for those who want a stability shoe for that. It is broadly equivalent, I guess, to the Ride 17 within Saucony's range, but you haven't got as good a foam as on the Ride 17. So you're not getting a load of bounce from the foam, but you do get a smoothish ride, not too heavy a shoe, not too cumbersome a shoe, so it can do a mix of runs. For me, though, it's very much at its best for those easy runs, as the third shoe in a rotation almost, a shoe that you'd pull on for recovery runs, relaxed long runs, just stuff where you're mooching around and want a bit of protection underfoot, and then swap to something lighter, bouncier, something like the Saucony Tempest for faster runs if you're looking at stability shoes. But yeah, overall, I had quite a positive run test with the Saucony Guide 17. It wasn't a shoe I expected to wow me or anything like that, and it didn't, but it did its job really well as a workhorse shoe that you can just roll through easy miles in.
So I've done about 50k in this shoe so far, and that's mainly been easy runs, recovery runs. I'm marathon training at the moment. I generally have about 40k of easy runs a week. I've been using this shoe for that, but I have used it for a few strides. I've used it for a bit of an interval session, but really I'm just using it for the intended purpose of those easy runs where I want some stability and just a nice comfortable feel to my shoe. And what I found is when I did the first run for the Guide 17, I didn't really take to it straight away. I think I was a little bit tired from marathon training. It just felt a little bit sluggish to me and a little bit dense in the way that it rode. So I wasn't taken with it straight away. I didn't mind it massively. I think it was a solid, comfortable stability shoe. I just didn't really get a lot from it initially. After running it a few times, I've actually warmed to it a bit more. I think that midsole foam, after a few runs, breaks in a little bit more and it becomes a little bit more flexible and comfortable, less rigid. But overall, what I've found in the shoe is that it's a very good stability shoe. It definitely fits more towards the heavier stability side than shoes like the Saucony Tempest and things like that, which have a little bit of stability in. But it does have some nice updates to it. It's definitely feels like more of a natural shoe now than the previous versions. I've used previous versions of this shoe before. They've been absolutely fine. But I've never really warmed to those shoes massively. This one, I do feel like the updates to the way that the stability elements are added to the shoe does make it a more comfortable, accessible feel, much like the Asics Gel Keanu 30, which was a massive improvement on the previous versions for me. It just felt a little bit more comfortable, a little bit less like a stability shoe, but still having plenty of stability elements in it. So on those easy runs that I've done with it, or those daily runs that I've done in it, it's been absolutely fine. It's definitely not a versatile shoe. It's a shoe that really beds in at those easier easier paces. It feels consistent. It has a nice rolling action for me, but it's not a versatile stability shoe like some of the newer ones that we're seeing come out at the moment. So it's really a shoe that if you do need a lot of stability, this is a good option for it. It's got a really thick, wide base on it. It feels very, very stable and supportive, but not overly so that it feels uncomfortable. It just feels like a comfortable shoe that really beds you in nicely and comfortably. It does have a nice rolling action in it. I think this midsole foam is really good, solid midsole foam for running at a daily pace. Doesn't really allow you to do much more. But other than that, I found it to be a very enjoyable stability shoe and a good improvement on the guide range. The outsole, I would say, is a little bit lacking in rubber. So you do have rubber around the back section of the shoe and some around the outer area of the forefoot of the shoe. There's a lot of exposed midsole foam here. It's quite a sturdy, thick midsole foam, so it's probably not going to be an issue from durability. But it does, I do think there would be issues on wet terrain on this if you landed on the wrong area. I've not really had any issues so far, but it's definitely not a grippy section of the shoe, so I'd just be aware of that. So my verdict on the Saucony Guide 17, I think it's a very comfortable, solid stability shoe. The only thing I would say is that there are a lot of good stability shoes coming out now. So if you need a stability shoe and you don't necessarily need a full-on stability shoe, I think there are better options. Things like the Saucony Tempest, for me, is a really nice balance of stability, but still feels like a shoe that can do a lot more. I think it still sits in that world of things like the Asics Gel Kayano, where it's a full-on stability shoe, which is great. And if you need that it's a good option for that. I would probably pick the Asics Gel Kayano 30 over this, just because I think the midsole is a little bit more enjoyable. It's a little bit softer and just feels a little bit more forgiving when you're out running in it. This still feels a little bit firm for me, and I don't really like that in a running shoe. But if you like that and you want full-on stability, a nice wide base, and a very comfortable shoe, I think it's a really nice option, and you're not really going to go wrong with it. You're just probably going to struggle if you're running at those faster paces because it's not that much of a versatile shoe.
So the Guide 17 is a good stability shoe that provides a nice subtle level of support that I think will work for people who do overpronate, but also works quite well for neutral runners, I found in my testing. It's comfortable, it ticks off easy miles, ticks off long runs, does all that quite well without feeling too big on the foot while still offering a really high level of protection and support. It's not the most versatile daily training option I think you can find as a stability shoe, but I think it will do a job for lots of people. If you do want a lighter feeling on your foot for general training, I think the Saucony Tempest would be a better option. Puma's Forever on Nitro as well, I think it's quite a good versatile stability shoe, though I don't think it's quite as stable with, especially around the midfoot, where it's a fair bit narrower than the Saucony Guide 17. I think the Guide 16 probably had a snappier feel to it and maybe had a bit more versatility as a result, but I prefer the more rockered, smooth feeling you get with the Guide 17 with a slightly lower drop. I think it is an improvement all round the way they set up this shoe, and I think it's a similar shoe actually to the Asics Gel Kayano, are coming in a fair bit cheaper. I think a bit more cushioning with the Gel Kayano, but actually I think the Guide 17 will be cushioned enough for anyone. It is a big shoe underfoot, and the way it does stability is quite similar with the kind of inherent stability of a wide base and the sidewalls of foam and that kind of thing. So really good option to have on the market now. I think similarly to the Ride 17, I think Saucony is taking a lot of features from big cushion shoes, the very expensive premium cushion shoes like the Kayano and the Asics Gel Nimbus, the Saucony Triumph, and all those shoes, and brought them down to a slightly lower price point. So I think the Ride and the Guide do a lot of the same things as those shoes for less now. Guide 17 doesn't get the PWRRUN Plus foam that you have in the Ride, but I do think the PWRRUN foam is okay, especially like I say with the lower drop here and the geometry that allows you just to roll through your stride without really missing any big bounce from the foam that just isn't really there. But overall it is a pretty solid shoe. For me it is one, like I say, that's best for easy runs, but a little bit of versatility there if you want a cushion daily trainer as well. So yeah, solid update here.
Verdict then, well, I think Saucony is having a bit of a belter of a year, actually. I love the Ride 17. The Speed 4 is ticking a lot of the right boxes in testing. And the Guide 17, I think, steps into the lineup as a solid, no-nonsense, milder stability option. There's a lot to like about this shoe. And for a maximal, highly cushioned stability shoe, it manages to feel light. There's smooth transitions. I think there's a great clip-along feeling for those slower, easier miles once you've broken it in, for sure. It's the kind of shoe I think that helps you tick over easy miles with solid, reliable comfort. I'd pick this shoe a long way before the likes of the Asics Gel Kayano 30. Just feels like a big bulky shoe by comparison. Though fans of sort of softer support might prefer the Kayano's more cushioned ride. I also preferred it to things like the Nike Structure 25, just based on the overall kind of lightness on the foot of this shoe. Now, stepping outside of the stability segment, if I was choosing between this and other shoes, I don't always need stability, so I can benefit from it from the gait tests I've done, but I don't tend to run in it naturally. I'd probably choose the Ride 17 over these. I find them plenty stable for me. But if you need that extra support, I think the Guide 17 are really worth adding to your shortlist. This is a good, dependable, stable daily right here.
So that's it from us on this review of the Saucony Guide 17. Thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, click the little bell. And if you're going to Catch and Blow, you can find a link to our podcast, which comes at the end of each month. Thanks a lot for watching. Catch you next time.